Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to AccelerateOTT Virtual. We are absolutely thrilled to have an incredible day planned for you today. This is the first of 4 virtual AccelerateOTT segments, and we are absolutely thrilled to have an incredibly exciting way to kick off our session today. We are hosting the SheBoot pitch competition. This is a huge, huge journey that we have been on within our corporation and with so many partners across our community. And as we tackle our theme today, a roadmap for women entrepreneurs journey, and this incredible SheBoot pitch competition with 10 women founders from across our community, we could not be more thrilled to say we have doubled the pitch prize. Originally $100,000 from the incredible women angels who are committing investment. We also now have $100,000 through our Scale Up program supported by FedDev Ontario. So we have upped the ante, and today you are in for an incredible show because they have been working on their pitches with more than 50 mentors, angel investors, advisors, and other champions and ghost board members who are guiding them in terms of how to build their business and how to ensure they are investment ready. So this is an investment ready boot camp for women by women, and it is really one of the pinnacles of today's event. We are now in our 8th year. It is so hard for me to believe that this is already year 8 for AccelerateOTT, our flagship entrepreneurship conference hosted by Invest Ottawa. And this high impact day, we're all about bringing you actionable insight, meaningful connections, not just today, but every Thursday for the next 3 additional weeks. So mark your calendars because it is going to be a jam-packed, action-oriented series that you will not want to miss. We want to do a big shout out to the many sponsors who consistently support our entrepreneurial community and are so dedicated to ensuring that we are giving everything we can to provide all of the support that our founders and firms need across this region. We have our scale sponsors, the Government of Canada, our Trade Commissioner Service, the Canadian Technology Accelerator, Simple Story, our growth sponsors, Logan Katz, National Bank, Telfer School of Management at the University of Ottawa, our build sponsor Shopify, our launch sponsor MDK Law, MNP, Women's Entrepreneurship Hub, and Carleton University. So thank you so much for making today possible and for your continued support of our entire community. Before we begin, I want to do a huge welcome and do an introduction to 2 of the leaders in our community that have really made today possible and have certainly been anchor leaders for the SheBoot program. Jennifer Francis, who is chair of the Capital Angel Network, director of our board, and also involved in so many different organizations, including Technovation, an incredible program that helps inspire and enable young women to be engaged in technology, in coding and building business cases to set them on a path for technology entrepreneurship. And Julia Elvidge, who is certainly very well known across our community, on the board of directors of the Capital Angel Network, an advisor with Invest Ottawa, and former president of ChipWorks. So 2 incredible women leaders in tech who have been key and instrumental in architecting and helping to deliver and champion the SheBoot program. What can you expect over the course of the next 4 series sessions? You've got lots of hot topics, 8 hours of content total, 20 speakers and panelists in addition to those that we will be bringing you today, and $0 from your bank account. So we really encourage you to share this opportunity with those in your community so that we can maximize our impact on all entrepreneurs aspiring and those who are building businesses actively today through AccelerateOTT Virtual. A few housekeeping items before we jump into our first speaker. We have, of course, as we always do, muted all participants to avoid background noise. We have a very interactive program lined up for you today. We will be using the chat box, and I look forward to fielding your questions and helping to stimulate that interaction with everyone out there who is benefiting from the program. And we do request 1 item to help protect the security of this event and all of you. We are asking for no links to be posted to the chat box. Very, very important to maintain our security. So we thank you for supporting us in that endeavor. Before I introduce our incredible keynote speaker, we would like to acknowledge the land on which we gather virtually is the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people. We thank everyone for joining us today. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce our first keynote speaker for AccelerateOTT Virtual, Claudia Reuter. She's an experienced entrepreneur, executive, board director, podcaster, and a published author. She's recognized by Business Journal Boston as a 2016 Women to Watch in Science and Technology and as a change maker by Hub Week. She currently serves as the General Manager Americas East for Techstars, and she's also a director of the board of Lessonly, a member of the editorial advisory board for Innovation Leader. Prior to joining Techstars, she served as the SVP of Digital Services and Labs for Hopton Millen Harcourt, and she is the co-founder and CEO of School Chapters. Please join us in welcoming Claudia to our virtual stage.
Hi, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Thank you for allowing me to participate in today's event. I know we're all on Zoom, so I'll go ahead and share my screen if that's okay, Sonia. Okay. Always give me 1 second. And Sonia, can you see my screen okay?
I can indeed, we're good.
Great. Well, again, I'm Claudia Reuter. I am a GM with Techstars, and I'm thrilled to be able to participate in this event today and incredibly excited for all the founders who've had an opportunity to already be part of this and excited to see what's next for them. So I'm a GM with Techstars, where I joined Techstars a few years ago with a goal of trying to basically be able to provide access to others in a way that I think I didn't necessarily have when I was on my own entrepreneurial journey. And here we are today in this new world. We're all obviously on Zoom and working from places around the world, and yet able to gather together virtually. And I think there's no better time to not only think about entrepreneurship as a path forward personally and professionally, but also as an opportunity to rethink the structures that exist in the world of work today and how we can transform them to create more equitable and inclusive environments. So as I mentioned, I'm currently a GM with Techstars. To give you a little bit of background on what Techstars is, and then I'll take you a little bit through my own journey. Techstars is really the worldwide network designed to help entrepreneurs succeed. We run accelerators around the world, approximately 47, including 2 right here in Canada. We have a Techstars Toronto program, 3 actually, Techstars Toronto program, a program with Colliers International in Toronto, as well as a Montreal AI program here, all here in Canada. So really excited to be a part of this event. To date, we've invested in over 2,000 companies. And what we're really excited about is not only the incredible success that we help entrepreneurs achieve with a number of unicorns that are out there, a number of successful exits, but also just generally over 85% of the companies in which we invest are either active or have been acquired. So really excited about the opportunity to support entrepreneurs around the world, help them through investment, network, connections, and really help them accelerate their businesses from wherever they are today to the next level. We also run startup weeks and a number of different community events around the world, supporting people who are early in their entrepreneurial journey. We also have a number of programs dedicated to helping corporations as they're thinking about how to engage with startups and how to engage with the startup ecosystem as part of their innovation strategy. So couldn't be more excited to be part of this organization and take you through a little bit of why I think this is important for not just entrepreneurs, but female entrepreneurs in particular. So, you know, and I'd like to also say that, you know, I know we're all on Zoom and we're not together in person, but if questions come up or as thoughts emerge as I'm sharing information, please feel free to jump in to, you know, make this more conversational if that's helpful. But I like to take a step back and, you know, obviously becoming an entrepreneur, thinking about starting your own business has its own set of challenges for anyone who's trying to do it. Of all companies generally that go for investment, I believe it's less than 1% who actually are able to go forward on that journey and raise capital and do what's needed to bring their business to the next level. But as we think about female entrepreneurs and the world of work for women in particular, and these are primarily stats focused in the US, but things to keep in mind is, we have this big disconnect, right? Obviously, 50% of the population is women, right? Yet, and 70% of high school valedictorians tend to be females in the US. Over 50% of college graduates are females. 85% of women become mothers at some point in their lives. And yet only in the US, only 17% of US companies actually offer paid maternity leave. Less than 7% of US companies offer dedicated childcare. And so we can start to see this big disconnect in stats. The percentage of educated women, success stories that we have, emerging women leaders, and yet the disconnect in what actually happens on the ground. And so when we get into the world of entrepreneurship and startups, I think it's particularly important to highlight that less than 3% of venture funding in 2019 went to women-led companies. And so one of the things I've written a book on and tried to do some research on is not just how do we change these stats or what's wrong with these stats, but what are some of the deep underlying challenges that have led to these outcomes? And how can we not only work to transform them across the board, but how can we actually leverage entrepreneurship to change some of these stats? So I don't know, and again, we're not in a room together, so it's hard to see all of you, but I don't know if this picture rings a bell with anyone on this call. It was from BBC News a few years ago, pre-COVID. This was a big deal. Like, there was a newscaster who was coincidentally working from home, and his family managed to step into his world of work, and it went viral. It was a phenomenon. This idea that work and home were suddenly decompartmentalized. And it struck me that now we're in this world of COVID where we're all working from home. We're all quickly interrupted by family and pets and things happening in the next room over. And yet women have really, primarily been compartmentalizing work from home for many years and for many, many different reasons, which have made it difficult to make these things integrated. And I think have in part contributed to some of the discrepancies and disparities we see. So going back to now, these are stats from the US, but things to keep in mind. So I'm a 45-year-old person. I grew up in the late 70s and early 80s as a young kid. And I think it's important to recognize that until 1974 in the US, women couldn't get credit without a male cosigner. And this sounds like, on one hand, a very long time ago. And why does that matter today? But I think when you dive into the details of this a little more, you can start to see the challenge with the idea that people who are adults today were raised by other adults and among other people who thought it was perfectly acceptable to not trust women with money, right? To require a male cosigner. Until 1978 in the US, it was also perfectly acceptable to discriminate against a woman for not only being pregnant, but for the potential that you could get pregnant, which when you take a step back really means that any woman of childbearing age could technically be discriminated against at work and prevented from promotion or from getting a job. And so just interesting to think about that while this was a long time ago, these were things that were baked into the dialogue, into the national discussion, into pop culture, into what was essentially normalized. And the idea that while the law may change, how much did the behavior and the bias that went with that change? And of course, for everyone is aware that, this is 2020, and it was not until 1920 that women achieved the right to vote in the United States, and not all women, right? But again, I think the key here is to remember that while this seems like a long time ago, today's leaders, today's executives, many people who are, at the top of their careers had relatives who lived among a time where this was perfectly acceptable. And so again, the reason I bring up all these stats is not to make us, go back in time and think about all the wrongs that have been there, but to think about how these stats impact the way in which we still operate and the way in which we interact with each other today, and the limitations that that can put on people in terms of their sense of possibility for themselves and for others. There's a lot of work that's been done on the idea that what you become in part is based on what you see. So when you see people who look like you achieving success or in a certain role, it's much easier to imagine yourself in that role. And if you don't see someone who looks like you, it's actually difficult. It's like, that's why people are considered trailblazers, because to be the first is actually more difficult because you've never seen someone who looks like yourself in that position, and neither has anyone else. And even today, if you go on Google and you do a Google images search for CEO, this is a quick screen grab I did, the algorithm will spin up images that look like this. And you'll notice that there's no women in there. And so it's just important to recognize that the systems in which we are still interacting today do not normally like spin up, an image of a woman when the word CEO is referenced. So what does that do to how we see ourselves and what the possibility is for us to become? One of the images I like to pull up as an example of, just the potential that exists simply in changing the imagery around us is this one. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this picture, but this is really just a clip from a TV show that was very popular in the late 1990s. And it was a show called Ally McBeal. And it was, just a sitcom focused on the lives and comedic situations revolving around lawyers and their profession. And it seems like, a silly image to pull up. And why does something like this matter? But simply the act of having a show where people could see someone who looks like them in it, whether it was conscious or not, the number of applications in the US for females who were interested in becoming lawyers increased around this time. So it's not to say that a particular show led to the outcomes of more women pursuing a certain career, but I would make the case that the more that we can encounter images of what's possible, the more comfortable people get with certain ideas and certain roles. So I think we haven't seen a lot of images around entrepreneurship until more recently. And one of the reasons I'm really excited to be able to participate in this event where so many women are able to highlight what they're doing. And what's exciting about this is that the work that folks are going to be seeing here at this event and, because of this event, it's not just impacting the women participating today, it's impacting anyone watching and what's possible for them in the future. So as we get into the world of entrepreneurship and we think about these stats, the stats that are out there that less than 3% of women who try to raise capital do so, or less than 3% rather of capital that's distributed goes to women-led companies. I think beyond the images that we encounter in terms of people being willing to step into a role because of what they see as possible, it's important to understand the bias that different folks encounter in meetings. There was a study done a few years ago that looked into the way in which investors interacted with founders and meetings. And one of the things that was interesting that was uncovered was the idea that women were more likely to be asked questions about the risk involved with what they were trying to achieve, what they were trying to go after. Whereas men were more likely to get questions on the opportunity. How big was this going to be? Where were they going? Where could this opportunity take them? So one of the things that we work on with founders now, and I like to try to draw attention to, and again, this goes back to education. This is education for investors as much as it is for entrepreneurs. But what do you do if you're in a situation where someone is asking you something that's talking about risk? What's the downside of that? Well, if you're talking about risk and you're just talking about what could go wrong, it's actually difficult to sell an investor on what the opportunity is and why they should invest in your company. So one way to combat that is to identify, acknowledge that yes, all businesses inherently have risk of some kind, But then as the founder, as the entrepreneur, redirect that investor back to discussing the opportunity, take them back where you want to take them. And, that I think in many ways that concept, which many of you may have already heard, is easier said than done. And so one of the other areas in which I was doing some research and looking at studies that were out there is not only why are women more likely to be asked questions about risk versus opportunity, but why is it challenging to turn that conversation around? Why is it challenging to step away from the conversation of risk and turn it into one of opportunity? And I would say that I think it is in part because there are studies that show as very, very young people in the early education system, girls, young women, are more conditioned to exhibit compliant behavior, and boys are actually ignored for compliant behavior. Boys are actually given a ton of attention for misbehavior. So when you think about what that looks like and what that means, what that looks like are young girls being conditioned to receiving rewards for things like staying in your chair, showing up on time, getting the answer right. Whereas boys are, running around, not, challenging what's in front of them, and they're getting, in some cases, it may be perceived as negative attention, but people actually exhibit behaviors based on any attention, whether that's negative or positive. So if you're ignoring someone for compliant behavior, but you're getting attention for misbehavior, you still may actually be more inclined to misbehave, so to speak. And so when we take those conditioning traits that are kind of ingrained in at early ages and we walk them through to adulthood, it's actually starts to be easier to understand how it could be that you could be in a meeting and someone could be asking you a question about the risk associated with your business, and you suddenly want to be compliant and answer the question and get it right, as if there's a right answer to talking about risk. So these are some of the educational components that we try to bring to the surface, because I do think that it's true that once you know better, you do better, but that doesn't mean that it's easy to do so. So there's multiple levers here along the way that we're trying to help shed some light on, both for the female founders that these types of ingrained bias and challenges are impacting them, but also for investors and people coming down the road who may not be self-aware or aware of how they're questioning and how they're contributing to an environment that makes it less likely that these particular people will receive funding or be able to advance their businesses. One of the other things, and I'll actually, I just again remind folks that I'm happy to, take questions and make this engaging as we go, because I know that, we're all kind of absorbed into Zoom at the moment. One of the other ideas that I think is very helpful for folks to understand as you're building a business, whether you're building a business, whether you're a leader in an organization, whether you're seeking fundraising, understanding the different stereotypes that may be out there that it's also important to realize that there's traits and stereotypes that are associated with the genders that, when assigned to the other gender, actually become negative, and they can be positive for one. And so what I mean by that is, say if you take the phrase, like a male leader is perceived as aggressive, or, then when that stereotype is attributed to a man, it's perceived in a positive light. He's an aggressive leader. This is a good thing. He's going to build this business and move mountains to get this done. If you take the same word and you assign it to a female leader, that woman is aggressive, it's actually oppositional. It will be perceived as a negative attribute when it's assigned to the opposite gender. So suddenly that woman is aggressive. She's going to be difficult or problematic to work with. And vice versa, attributes that are stereotypes rather that are often ascribed to women and in that way are perceived in a positive light, like being helpful or kind, when they are transferred and applied to a man, in an oppositional way, it's perceived as a weakness. So suddenly, now that man, that leader is kind, he's not forceful, he's not aggressive, he's not going to get things done. All of this is ironic because we also know through evidence that some of the best leaders are actually empathetic, able to drive consensus, able to put themselves in the seat of their customer and to experience things in different ways. So we have attributes that we know make for a successful leader, and yet the way in which we describe or we assign stereotypes actually makes it difficult for both genders to progress in a way that's helpful for the organization. So one of the things, or some of the things that we try to put forth to help people not only think about how to deal with some of these challenges that they have when they're encountering bias and questioning and decision-making, but also in how they're dealing with different challenges that they have in investor meetings or conversations, is one, always take a step back and make sure that you're clear, really clear for yourself about what you want to do. What are the goals that you have? What are the outcomes that you're trying to achieve? Don't worry right away about what you may be asked. Don't worry so much about, all the problems that could arise on your path to get there. Don't think about all the things that could go wrong, but instead get very clear, and to the point where you're willing to write it down on a piece of paper or make an image of it, the things that you want to achieve both long-term, like over the next 5 years, and the outcomes you want to achieve today. So when I go into this meeting, my goal is going to be X. And be mindful of that, because then when you get questions and if they're not helping you answer questions in a way that is going to help you achieve your outcome for the day or your goal, and maybe your goal is that your goal may be as simple as, I'm going to get a next meeting, right? I'm in this meeting today, I'm going to get one more. Or your goal may be, I want to ensure that we close this deal today, or that we get to the next level in this relationship, whatever it is. Think about the question, whatever it was that you just got asked. If it was about the risk, if it was about, tell us what could go wrong, what's going on with your security system. Think about how you could quickly reframe the question to get you back to where you want to go. Not where you think you're going to give the right answer, but where you want to go. So, acknowledging, if the question comes in, well, tell us about, we're a little worried about this industry. Like, is it really ripe with opportunity? You say, I understand why that's concerning to you, but let me take you back to why this is going to be the next big success story. In addition to thinking about how you're reframing questions, how you're taking people where you want to go, I think it's really important that we all check our own bias. Some of the simple things that come up are like when you think about imagery, or when you think about someone telling you, hey, in just a few minutes, the CEO and the, administrative assistant are about to enter the room. Check your own bias and think about, who did you immediately put in those roles and why? And if it's not the image that you thought you would have, question to yourself where that's coming from and how you can change it. I also think it's really important for folks to affirm their own position. Sometimes, it's very easy to de-emphasize the success stories that you've had, to think that you're, to be polite and to say, to not, describe the work that you're actually doing. Take a minute and actually put your, describe your credentials at the beginning. Say who you are. Make sure you're telling other people, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm the CEO of this company. Like, make sure that you are not allowing someone else to fill in the blanks about what your success is. Make sure that you're filling it in first, and it's going to make the next step even easier. And, as you work to build your business and to take things to the next level, rethink what traits you look for in leaders, and what is the culture that you want to build, and what are the attributes of people that you want to work with that are going to get you to that place. So just a couple of things to think about. As we think about also building businesses and about startups and why all of this is so exciting, obviously everyone who's building a company is trying to solve a core problem that's out there in the world, whether, regardless of whether you're building a software company or a hardware company, you've obviously identified some sort of core opportunity and challenge that your business is positioned to solve for. But as you're building that organization, think about the fact that startups have brought us a lot of things beyond a product or something to buy, right? They've actually been key in having and rethinking many of the things we take for granted now in the world of work. So everything from how we bring ourselves to work in terms of what we're wearing. I'm old enough to remember a time where it was a big deal to wear jeans on Fridays. This was like a thing at one point. And so think about some of the things that we have right now, whether it's pet-friendly workplaces, open office spaces, flexible work hours. These are all things that entrepreneurs and startups made normal, right? They normalized it in a way that big companies wanted to take it on so that they could also attract exciting, successful people to their organizations. So as you're building a business now or thinking about building a business, what are some of the other things we could start to do that could transform the world of work in a positive way? You know, instead of just building what the business model to look like someone else has built it, or having, you know, a standard out 40-hour work week, are there other things we could do? Could we line up the work day with the school day? Could we have more family-friendly environments, and what impact would that have? You know, this world that we're in right now where kids are popping into Zoom meetings and all these sorts of things are happening. Are there other things that we could start to do, whether today as we're in this COVID landscape, or, you know, when we're in a post-COVID world and people start to go back to traditional offices? Are there ways in which we could set things up to make things easier for people who have families, or easier for people to who have logistical challenges, whether that's with young kids or elder care issues? Are there any other ways in which we could transform the world of work to make things more inclusive? You know, I was speaking with someone a few months ago, I have a podcast focused on telling more stories of what's possible for women, and in particular for mothers. And one of the women with whom I was speaking shared how sometimes we talk about giving someone a pass, like, hey, you've got it, whether it's a man or a woman, right? You have to go pick up your kids from daycare or childcare. And it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's very easy for everyone at the organization to feel like they're being kind by saying, oh, that's okay, don't worry about it. It's okay if you skip this meeting. We'll fill you in later to go take care of what you need to take care of. But the reality is that when you tell someone that, what you're actually insinuating is that it's okay if you're not there because you're not needed to be there. And so one of the ideas that this person, Erica Hogue, who I spoke with, suggested, and she was an early employee at Twitter when they were forming groups on different resources that could be available. One of the studies and findings they had was simply maybe creating an environment where meetings are happening at key parts of the day where it's unlikely someone will be impacted by that type of family logistic issue will make a more inclusive environment. So if you're saying, okay, we only do meetings from 9 to noon, and later in the afternoon is our time to get things done from our individual contributor mindset. That simple act actually goes a long way to allowing anyone who's in a position where they need to step away for care needs to feel like they have a seat at the table, and that their seat at the table is legitimate. So again, there are probably a million more ideas out there on ways in which we could transform not only what happens within the office, but how we're thinking about time management as it relates to work. When we think about Laura Vanderkam is an author who has done a lot of work on the concept of the 40-hour work week and where it came from, and the idea that you can be quite productive in many more hours of the day than a traditional work day. And yet all of our offices and all of our mindset is typically set up around a traditional 9 to 5 format. So are there other ways we could not only look at what our environments are like, but how we actually manage time itself, for global distributed teams to be able to not only be more successful for the organization and the organizational goals and the number of customers you're able to reach, but also be more inclusive for leaders who are looking to make progress in their careers and yet aren't able to contain, their core activities to a certain number of hours. It doesn't mean that they're not going to be productive for well more than 40 hours. So again, just some things to think about as you're building your business and as you're thinking about what's next in the world of work. And this is a silly picture I'm pulling up right now, but I think it's an important concept, especially in this world of COVID and working from home that we're talking about. There's a ton of folklore and stories of successful startups by guys who have built things in their garage, and without even going into a long list, I'm sure anyone listening can think of at least 10 companies that have had a story out there in the press about how they managed to build their business with very little money from their garage, and what a feat that was. And so one of the things that I would challenge folks today on is to think about, the other aspects of home that aren't traditionally assigned with the concept of the man cave. The garage and the basement are often described as man cave type places. And it's interesting that we're very open to the idea of amazing startups that have come from the quote unquote man cave. And so for women entrepreneurs and for people out there, not to say that you don't have access to the other areas, of course, but just to put out there from an imagery perspective, the idea that you can really start a business from anywhere, and anyone who is motivated to do so can do so. But I think what we need to do is shift some of the imagery that exists on what makes things possible and what makes things appealing, for investors and for potential customers. So just some food for thought. And with that, I'd love to open it up to any questions that you have or any experiences that you'd like to share. And thank you.
That was amazing, Claudia. Thank you so much. I have so many questions because we are so vested in this very topic, and I resonate with so many things. My good friend Deborah Nazinski is asking to hear from you about your experiences around vulnerability in the workplace when it comes to women. She says, we know how important it is to express vulnerability to initiate increase in strength and trust in an organization, given how many women risk emotionally being seen in a negative light. Oops, there we go, start my video. Being seen in a negative light or being misinterpreted entirely. Do you have any recommendations or thoughts on this topic? It's a big one.
Yeah, so unpacking that a little bit. So I started my journey, obviously many years ago at this point. But I started my journey first, as a recent college grad. I jumped into the world of tech as a way to develop my career and make a living, right? I actually stepped out of the workforce when I had my first child. And, I think one of the things that has emerged in at least the national dialogue over the last 10, 15 years is this idea of choice. There's an idea that has kind of infiltrated the national dialogue on the concept of, as a woman, are you choosing to lean into your career? Are you choosing to lean into all the possibility and, become a leader and do all these different things? Or are you leaning out? And there's been a ton of conversation on the concept of leaning out and not really investing in your career, and instead, focusing on personal matters and family. And I would make the case that that is a deep false dichotomy that has reached the national and international dialogue. I was actually featured on the Lean In website many years ago as an example of someone taking risk. I'm an advocate of the concept of leaning in. But I think the false dichotomy that is out there is that that everyone who, whether you choose to do one or the other, that is in fact a choice. And I would make the case that it's a byproduct of the structures in which people operate, and your choice is limited by the structures in which you engage. So when I stepped out of the workforce, I didn't well, of course I made a decision to do that. I made a decision because the structures that were around me were not conducive to being successful in either way. Like if I had stayed at the career that I had at that point, I would have been in a place where, I couldn't have easily navigated childcare. From a time perspective, it was going to add, an hour both ways to my commute. Plus, it was at that stage in my career going to eat up a substantial portion of my take-home pay. There were all these factors that went into that decision. When I went back to step into the traditional world of work again, I realized that even that choice I had made, I think in many ways, and some of this was internalized by me and some of this was external, but I felt that my choices were limited coming back in, that suddenly that explaining the gap years wasn't going to be very easy. And that's actually what led me to start my own company. And so starting my own company actually allowed me to take on an immediate leadership role. I didn't have to explain to anybody why I did what I did. And in fact, I was able to get things started while my kids were in tow. And so, in terms of being vulnerable, I think it took me a long time to actually open up about, the challenges of compartmentalizing work from home. It was something I was dealing with, and yet it's something I'm becoming much more comfortable talking about 17 years later. My kids are now 17 and 15. So when I started my company, I actually, in many ways, my kids always knew what was happening with my work life. I was very open with my family about all the things I was trying to do, but I was highly compartmentalized about what I was sharing with potential customers or investors about how, what was going on behind the scenes. So the very first term sheet that I negotiated, I did so from one of my kids' closets because it was the only place that I could go that was going to be quiet. And it was funny, I was sharing this story with someone more recently. This was obviously many years ago. And the person I was sharing it with was kind of horrified that, that had been, she said, why did you have to feel like you needed to hide that from other folks? And I would say, today I think this is, while there's so many horrible things that have come as a result of COVID and so many negative ways in which people have been impacted, I think one of the positive ways, one of the glass half full things coming out of this is that we are being forced to decompartmentalize work from home. And I think that's creating a safer space for people to feel more confident and comfortable sharing maybe some of the, either early childhood or elder care issues that, are coming into people's lives, and make people feel a little less vulnerable as they're trying to talk about these things.
Amazing. Yes, I think it has certainly leveled the playing field in many respects as children and pets and parents are wandering in and off of the Zoom cameras, and we're living a very different reality. Fantastic story. I would invite others to join in the chat with their questions. I have one. I would love to know what you see as your greatest success as an entrepreneur, and what was your greatest learning opportunity, what others might cast as failure, right? Failures are always an opportunity to learn and often very pivotal in the journey in terms of how we grow. How would you describe your greatest success and learning opportunity?
I think thank you for the question first. I think some of my greatest, first of all, I actually often don't feel successful. And I think that actually continues to drive me to do things. but I think one of the ways in which I felt in hindsight there was great success was being able to realize that the entrepreneurial journey is actually a marathon. It's not a sprint. And helping other people recognize that, success isn't limited to one day or to one outcome, but I think it's how you're able to interact with your customers, how you make people feel, and, how you're helping other people on your pathway as well. So some of my greatest successes were hearing either, other people within my company that I was able to bring on and help them on their journey. Or, with some of, the customers that I know the solution we had developed was impacting in a positive way. Those were some of the things that gave me the most joy and let me keep going. But also recognizing that the entrepreneurial experience doesn't necessarily end at the end of your organizational journey. So I raised capital for my business, and then ultimately we were acquired by another company. And actually some of my biggest leadership learnings happened post-acquisition, when I was able to really see not only the experience from the seat of the founder and the things I was trying to do with limited resources. Suddenly in a larger organization with more resources, I was able to see, you know, the way in which you could move more quickly in a big company. And so basically being able to apply lessons from every stage of the journey as we go. Yeah.
Amazing. Our chat box is lighting up, of course, given the incredible presentation you delivered, and it's hard for me to even fathom that you don't see yourself as a success. She has written a book, everyone. Yes, you can do this, how women start up, scale up, and build the life they want. And so I encourage everyone to take a peek at that. Jennifer Francis says, investment in women founders has dropped during COVID. What do you think is driving that?
Well, I think, you know, one of the things, kind of speaking from the seat of where we see things right now, I think when COVID first really struck and things started to lock down, I think there was a lot of pullback where just across the board, across everyone, where investors were trying to make sure that their portfolio companies were okay, you know, what was happening with customers, how are things moving. So I would say the first half of the last few months, I think there was just a big reset on making sure that that what was there was okay, and then people were shifting to see, you know, was the investment thesis still the same for what was next. I don't have a great answer to why a particular job. I tend to focus more on, well, what can we do about it? How can we keep moving things forward? And one of the things that, you know, obviously we're trying to do here is highlight more of what's possible and what's out there. We actually just also started a program that just went live in the last week with one of our partners with Barclays, focused on not just helping women think about, female founders in particular, with maybe the exact moment in which they need investment, but also looking at what are the other things that impact their ability to be successful in this regard. And so one of this particular program we're working on is focused on helping women get more press attention for their companies and for their products. And because there's a gap in funding. There's also this concept of the paper ceiling, that male-led companies are 5 times more likely than female-led companies to get press about their businesses, which of course leads to more business and more success. So I just think it's something we need to keep kind of hitting from multiple angles. One is getting more investors and more, you know, more women a seat at the table on the investment side of the house, more discussion and education around the knowns that are out there. We know that diversity in leadership teams leads to better performance in organizations. We also know that diversity in your portfolio leads to a better return. So, you know, just continuing to educate folks on that, and then encouraging people to go out and seek the founders as they're going to make those investments. One of the things that we also have been talking a lot about is access in events and networking. I've told people, you know, when I was first starting out many moons ago, I remember one of the events that I went to was some event advertised to network and meet with different potential investors. And I remember being like the only woman there. And, you know, that came with its own set of challenges. But the bigger challenge I had was like how much went into even getting to that meeting because of the personal challenges at the time in terms of figuring out logistics and childcare. I mean, that's one of the things with COVID and what's happening in the world right now too, is that women are also still bearing the brunt of childcare. And we know now with schools closed and different things happening, that makes it more challenging to go out and seek out opportunity, because you're just trying to keep the lights on at home, right? So thinking about even events that you're doing to support founders, and are they themselves inclusive? Like, are you getting not only women to the table for the investor meeting, but are you even getting them to the initial networking events and activities that could give them access? And are they at the right, you know, are they at times a day that are easy for people who are dealing with things? I was interviewing someone a few months ago who she described herself as having twins who are 18 months old, single mom, primary breadwinner, twins who are 18 months old, a special needs 6-year-old, and another 7-year-old child. and the playgrounds were closed. There was no access to go outside. And so it's very difficult in that position to imagine how you're how you're even participating in a meeting. So yeah, going back to how are we thinking about the environment that we're allowing people to feel like they're included and accepted. So
amazing. We're chatting about all these very same challenges, and so guidance on this front is welcome by our entire community. We've got lots of questions. Steve is asking, what advice do you have for high school students? I presume that's girls who are needing to be inspired, programs like Technovation that I referenced earlier that Jennifer's involved in. What would be your guidance to inspire our young women to pursue entrepreneurship?
I mean, I think so I actually have two teenagers, but they're both boys, and they're fairly entrepreneurial on their own as well. I think, again, this is always more than one way to do this, right? This comes down to, making sure we're getting equal access, but we're all, and to the events like the ones you were just describing are great, educational opportunities, but also ensuring that the messages that we're sharing and the imagery that's being created allows younger women in particular to see themselves in those roles going forward. Because as I mentioned, if you don't see that as a possibility for yourself, it's very hard to take the step to get there. One of the other things I was talking to someone about recently is, if you think back, I'm old enough to think back to like your early education days and the types of women that are shared as examples in history, most of them meet untimely deaths. Most of the risk takers, if you think about it, we get a ton of education in the US on, the stories of people like Amelia Earhart or, Madame Curie, obviously amazing people who accomplished amazing things. Yet we don't tell, but we truly did also meet, if you're concerned about risk, that, that's an image in front of you that's actually pretty risky. But yet there are plenty of stories of women entrepreneurs who have been successful over time, or women who have been, leaders over time, that we don't really educate people about enough. And so this goes back to, I think we need to look at fundamentally about education. I mean, one of the folks I brought up in the book at one point was like the founder of the company that made Whiteout. It was a woman who had been a secretary who had recognized a problem at work and solved it, went on to build a multi-million-dollar business that was acquired, and yet she's not in the textbook. So anyway,
Wow.
So yeah, keep just putting the images out there for
role models. If you can see her, you can be her. Absolutely.
Exactly. And I think encouraging young women to realize that it's okay to fail. And when we say that, and I was speaking to someone else about this not too long ago, Susan McSalmon, who's with Johns Hopkins. She was rightly so mentioning we do give a lot of lip service to the concept of fail fast, and it's okay to fail. But many of the systems and structures we have in place for younger kids certainly don't feel like it's okay to fail. Like, it doesn't feel like, on one hand, if you're telling people that your GPA matters so much or your SAT score matters so much, there's not it's not necessarily true, or people don't feel, there's a disconnect there on what, is it really okay to fail? Like, is it really okay to get an F and still have success? So setting up scenarios where it's safe to fail, I think, is probably a way I would try to describe it. And that, using failure as a way to do self-assessment and keep moving things forward is something to really be talking about, not just failing. So.
Absolutely. Awesome. From TJ, thank you for being here. Can you share any insights in the difference in the challenges women face in the B2B space versus the more often covered B2C world?
So I think that's a really interesting question. Thank you for asking it. Again, I think this goes back to where people currently are. So I think if you look at the leadership gaps in Fortune 500 companies, which are many of the potential customers to which you're trying to sell, right? If you're a B2B company, you're typically trying to sell to larger organizations. When you look at those organizations, they still tend to have a disproportionate number of men in leadership roles versus women. It also means look at who's in the procurement divisions or who's in the purchasing decision, you know, from a budget standpoint, who are the VPs, you know, and so I think if you see a disconnect between women-led businesses successfully selling and or being successful B2B, it's not for lack of ambition or lack of you know, skill. It's often goes back to, you know, people, you know, the potential for people to be outnumbered in different environments. You know, there's those studies out there that, you know, just having one woman on your corporate board isn't necessarily enough to drive actual inclusive dialogue or, you know, change the innovation landscape. You need to, you know, get, I think it's a percentage higher than that for people stop becoming the one voice of woman and actually become just part of the conversation. And so I also think that there's just a lot of stereotypes out there, you know, when women have formed B2C companies, if they're in certain, you know, traditionally female dominated spaces, it just becomes it just becomes a stereotype and is more likely to get press attention than some of the other stories. So going back to, you know, we've got to create more inclusive environments across the board and at all levels of leadership, just as we would expect to see in education. You wouldn't expect to go into a university tomorrow and see only 3% women in a body of students. It would be unacceptable because it's such a poor representation of the possibility within the population. So, you know, how do we change that inside of all of our other, you know, structures, private and public?
Very cool. Raphael asks, what do you think are the most common challenges facing women of minority groups?
I mean, I think without, you know, obviously not walking in someone else's shoes, but I think one of the challenges we see is just the stats alone are even more dismal, right? Like if only 3% or less of venture funding went to women, I don't even, it was like a fraction of a percent. I mean, that has gone to women in, you know, other more diverse groups. And so again, this goes back to the multiple levels of discrimination and challenges that are out there. Obviously, depending on the you know, the group, it's even more complex and more challenging. And so there's even more need to get more images out there and to get more stories out there of what's possible, so that other people and other women can step into those roles as well. One of you know, we also this is another area that we've been trying to focus more energy on at Techstars as well, is looking at how do we, you know, support more founders. And there's some work going on right now to look at different fund possibilities. I'm thinking about different stages of fundraising that impacts, like certain diverse groups like are less likely to have any access to family and friends rounds. So how do you think about investments that are basically with an entrepreneur across the stages of their journey and not leaving people out? The other piece too is that, you know, from the seed to Series A, there's still a drop off for women founders generally. Or there's this other flip side where you'll see a lot of groups start to emerge that will say, oh, we'll write checks for female founders, but you already have to have X amount in revenue, which would have indicated that you already got a seed round or family and friends round. And if that investment wasn't available to you, of course, it's going to be even fewer people who are there. So I think we need to do a heck of a lot more to think about the entrepreneurial journey and the stages of which people who have more privilege you know, just have more access and therefore more likelihood of success, and how we can change that.
Amazing. I'm curious, who was your greatest role model and why? When we talk about the see her, you can be her, who did you strive to be?
I mean, I've had so many different amazing, I've been really fortunate to be able to have people at every stage of my life experience so far who are ahead of where I am, who have been willing to turn around and extend the hand, and men and women. So I don't have necessarily just one person, but, you know, starting with my own family, I have a sister who's only 1 year older, who's always, you know, been able to turn around and give me advice on what's next. And throughout my career, I've been influenced by men and women who just have not only managed to be successful, but to turn around and make sure that they're pulling people around them. The company that acquired my company, the CEO at the time was a woman named Linda Zucker. And she was a corporate vice president at Microsoft. She had built her own company at one point, and she took the organization from the brink of bankruptcy to IPO, and has just been a phenomenal role model for other women, and made sure that her leadership team was inclusive along the way.
Amazing. We have time for one last question, and I'm going to ask you, what is the most important takeaway that you would like all the founders and aspiring founders that are with us today to know and to go forward with? Perhaps it's something from your book, your own experience. We would love to hear your number one takeaway.
The number one thought that's been influencing me a lot in the last few years that I found really, it has not only been helpful, but it legitimately works, is as you think about the future, if you can think about everything in the world of what is possible versus what could go wrong, you will be more successful. And I say that from experience, because I actually have a tendency to lean towards anxiety or worry, and I've managed to shift that, and it's a continuous effort to shift that. But when you do, when you focus on, hey, what are the 5 things that could go really well today? What are the 5 things I'm going to do today? When you can focus on what could go really well, not only are you more likely to put your energy there and therefore your work and effort there and make that happen, you also end up surrounding yourself with people who are thinking the same way. And you just inadvertently end up surrounding yourself with people who are also thinking about what's possible, and you kind of collide with each other versus thinking about all the things that could go wrong and the reasons it could go wrong. And like, you could be very right about all the things that could go wrong, but you'll find no shortage of people who want to get in the room and complain with you. So really thinking about how you could, go to the place of what is possible and what can happen. And when you go there, you'll be amazed at how many doors start to open.
Winning mindset. That's what I might call that, the winning mindset. Thank you so much. It was an honor to welcome you to our AccelerateOTT virtual series. I am certain there are a few more questions flowing through, and we'll do our best to get those to Claudia. Take a peek at her book, Yes, You Can Do This, How Women Start Up, Scale Up, and Build the Life They Want. It is available now. Thank you very, very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and good luck to everyone today.
Thank you so much. We are now going to shift gears and get ready to put some of those great principles into practice. And Invest Ottawa, together with the Capital Angel Network and more than 50 women, have created SheBoot. For us at Invest Ottawa, it really supports our vision to create the greatest region in the world for women to launch, grow, and scale global, successful, and sustainable companies right here in our region, and to get the first $100 million woman-owned firm in this city by 2024. It is my pleasure to introduce to you the co-founders of SheBoot, Jennifer Francis and Julia Elvidge. I'm going to pass the baton to you, my friends.
All right, thank you very much, Sonia. Really excited to be here. And thank you, Claudia. That was the perfect talk to start off the SheBoot session. So I wanted to start just by talking a little bit about SheBoot. SheBoot's a collaboration between Capital Angel Network here in Ottawa and Invest Ottawa. And the co-founders of SheBoot, as Sonia said, are myself, Sonia Shorey, and Julia Elvidge. This started as an idea, over coffee back around December timeframe, and really excited that we're now here at the pitch competition for the first cohort of SheBoot. And it really, we started it to tackle the issue of access to capital for female founders. As Claudia mentioned, less than 3%, in fact, about 2.7%, just to be a little more precise, of VC funding goes to female founders in tech. And as you can imagine, this isn't really super acceptable. So what we wanted to do is to build a boot camp that was specifically aimed at this problem, to help female founders get investment ready and give them the confidence, the skills, the ability to be able, and the access and networks to be able to get in front of angel investors and VCs in order to give them the access to capital. And in this time of COVID, it's become in many respects even more important, as the funding for female founders has actually dropped over the last 6 to 9 months during the pandemic. I think there's a few reasons for this. Part of it is as funding has moved much more to being going through existing relationships, it's benefited the male founders who have those relationships. So we really need to build up that that network of female funders and female founders, and get more access to that to get the capital. And I would say that the 200,000 that we're going to be giving out today as prizes is just the first step on that journey. Our ultimate goal is to have 10 out of 10 of our SheBoot founders funded over the next year. So what I'd like to hand it over to Julia to talk a little bit about the program itself and what we've done over the last 4 to 6 weeks.
Thank you, Jennifer. The SheBoot program is a 4-week boot camp. It starts as the boot camp, but there is a follow-on for women founders who want to get investment ready. It included workshops, both legal, sales, marketing topics, but most importantly, investment, investors, and pitching. Pitch practices started the very first week and were recorded. Practice judges were there, and they continued weekly. And it was great to see how the founders progressed week after week. We switched up the judges on the pitch practices, so there were different input, different points of view, and I think there was a lot of value in hearing from different, both men and women investor judges. Each founder was also matched with a lead coach and a ghost board, and this is how the relationship continues on beyond the boot camp. There is a commitment by each coach and the ghost board members to stick around for the next year and meet up, whether it be monthly or quarterly, depending on coach or ghost board, to see how things are progressing, to see how they can continue to help and encourage going forward. And over the last week, the 10 women who put $10,000 towards the 100K convertible note that will be part of the first prize, listened to the pitches, reviewed the data rooms, and debated a fair bit in the selection process. But it was really good to do that, and we're very happy to see them tonight. Just so you're aware, the first prize is 100K in the form of a convertible debenture, and then 50K of non-dilutive funding from FedDev. Thank you, FedDev, for putting that money forward, and for those 10 women investors. And the second prize is 50K grant from FedDev. I do want to just share one note that we got in terms of feedback that I found valuable. It was one founder wrote, SheBoot did disrupt my business flow and messed up my schedule, but what I took away from the experience was well worth it. It pushed me to focus in and get the pitch and deck solid. It reminded me that we were on the right path and connected with my wonderful coach. I believe this relationship will last a long time. I feel her support and pride, and she is really championing me. So thank you for that feedback. But I think we all got a lot out of the last 4 weeks, and I'm really looking forward to tonight, this afternoon, and those final pitches. Handing off to you, Jennifer.
Great, thank you, Julia. So now we're going to move into the live pitches, and I will stress that these are live. As we've decided we've got the set of founders to do this. I'm going to ask you all to pay attention, and I'm sure you would have anyway, but I'm going to ask you to pay attention because we are going to have a crowd favorite. So you're going to get a voting chance at the end of this, and the crowd favorite will be invited to pitch into the Capital Angel Network for funding. So kicking off, I would like to introduce the founder and CEO of Bingo Impact Management, Caitlin Pentafallo.
Okay, everything looks good there?
Go into,
Awesome.
okay, looks good.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. Thank you to the organizers and leaders of Shibu. It's great to be here today and get us started. I'm Dr. Caitlin Gadd, and I'm here as founder and CEO of Bingo Impact Management. So we create social impact management software specifically for nonprofit organizations. So what exactly does that mean? First off, social impact is significant positive change that addresses a pressing social challenge. Most critically, social impact is the result of deliberate action. And so we work with nonprofit organizations where affecting this type of significant positive change is core to what it is that they do. This could be diversity and inclusion. It could be creating social capital, building community. It could be developing leadership skills. But managing, capturing, and assessing those forms of social impact and working through these big and tough questions is core to what we're doing at Bingo. So the problem space that we're in is that working on these big and tough questions is not simple. The process right now is actually really complex. So as organizations are trying to work through this process, they might wonder, what kind of questions should I ask? How is this data going to be stored? How am I going to prove my impact? And so what we're doing at Bingo is breaking down this process from something that's really complex and making any kind of social impact evaluation and management accessible, affordable, and understandable for any organization. I want to tell you a little bit about how I came to understand this problem so deeply. So 2 years ago, I was the Director of Innovation and Impact at a nonprofit where I was in charge of overseeing a $14 million investment into the amateur sports sector. But I spent about a third of my time cleaning data, generating reports, and trying very hard to tell the story of our organization's impact. With 95% of our funding coming from government, we couldn't afford to not report, to not do this social impact work. But I eventually left Bingo because I was tired of desperately trying to prove my organization's impact without the tools to do so effectively. I've also seen this problem from every side. So as an academic, I've worked on projects with the International Olympic Committee and with FIFA, and as a consultant, I've worked with Hockey Canada and Canadian Football League on these pressing social impact questions. So I understand very deeply the demand that's out there to report and remain accountable on social impact and the struggle that organizations face to meet those requirements. So that brings us to our solution. So we support organizations using a B2B and a B2G SaaS-based offering through our platform, which is a series of tools designed to measure, monitor, and manage the social impact of programming and interventions. In terms of what that entails, within the social impact management platform, we combine data dashboards, surveys, and expert evaluation services are all layered in to make sure that we're offering organizations the very best support to do their work in social impact. In addition to the actual platform, our clients also work through a unique process, one of the most innovative things about Bingo. We see this approach as having 5 distinct steps. So first, we really work with our client organizations to understand the stakeholders, the environment, and the interventions to be assessed. We work with them to identify the very best methodologies for what it is they're after. Then we implement the most appropriate and rigorous data collection strategies to help answer those questions. And lastly, the tools embedded within our platform help our client organizations analyze and manage all of that social impact data and really tell their social impact story. So in terms of our roadmap, what we have done and where we're going, we welcomed our first clients onto the platform in May, and then spent a lot of time this summer really investing in our proprietary data science and the platform behind that supports our back end. Looking forward, we do see a couple of big international opportunities to integrate with some tools that are out there right now in the impact reporting space. So take, for example, Social Value International. Only 7 softwares worldwide are accredited for social impact management. Bingo aims to be the 8th and the very first working in the nonprofit space. Our ask at this stage in our development is that we're seeking pre-seed angel investment, and this is the kind of funding that will help us expedite our post-MVP production and arrive at product market fit faster, building ourselves a 24-month runway as we get off the ground. And in conclusion, I would just like to say that this opportunity is significant. Whether you're a small nonprofit or a massive one, we're all looking to make change for the better right now. If we want organizations to deliver on social impacts promised, Change has to come from and within organizations themselves. Bingo offers the tools to help advance this critically important step on that pathway towards capturing, analyzing, and communicating social impact. Thank you.
Thanks, Caitlin. That was super. So a big hand for Caitlin. And next up, we have Shannon Ferguson from FanSaves, co-founder and CEO.
Thank you, Jennifer. Everyone can hear me okay? We are connecting communities of, can everyone hear me? I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me because I don't know if you can.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I'm going to start over. We are connecting communities of fans with the businesses that support them. I'm Shannon Ferguson, co-founder and CEO of FanSaves. Communities are all around us, whether it's a university or college community, a sports team community, an event, a fundraiser, even a chamber of commerce community. And all of these communities have supporters. We like to call them fans. We're all part of these communities, but how often do we recognize the businesses that support these communities? These businesses spend their money to help these communities thrive, but people rarely know who they are or have a direct way to support them. 3 years ago, my co-founder Chris and I were managing the marketing and sales for two minor professional hockey teams. Part of our job was to sell sponsorship, so rink boards, scoreboard ads, even coupons in the back of the game day programs. But a lot of business owners kept telling us they wanted more. They wanted something that was digital, something that tracked the return on investment, and something that tracked customer analytics. We didn't have anything like that, so we created FanSaves. Our solution is to help these organizations to sell more sponsorship and membership while giving those businesses a way to attract fans and really gather that valuable customer data. The icing on the cake is that fans can now support and engage with these businesses. FanSaves is a digital platform that offers fans discounts and deals from the sponsors and members of their favorite communities. Our app has been available for download on the app and the Google Play Store since 2018. And this summer, we launched our new and improved website, which allows people who might be reluctant to download an app to still receive great discounts and deals. It's very easy to use. People download the app for free and then become fans of their favorite communities. They can then scroll through those communities' discounts and deals and redeem the deal at the point of purchase, either online or in person. The meat and potatoes of FanSaves is the data that we collect. So both the organization and their affiliated brand have access to the gender, age, and primary location of every redemption and person using the deal. The way we make money at FanSaves is by licensing our platform directly to the organization. This means that the chambers of commerce, sports teams, events, schools, they pay us directly an annual licensing fee, and then they're able to resell FanSaves as part of their sponsorship inventory. The sponsorship market brings in $60 billion annually worldwide. Our immediate target is the North American sponsorship audience, and we are looking to capture a portion of the digital sponsorship market, which is about $75 million. There are 63,000 communities worldwide, and with a $3,000 average licensing fee, we're looking at an opportunity of over $189 million ARR. We already have amazing traction across North America. We're helping 43 organizations currently and offering over 450 deals. We're projecting $50,000 in ARR by the end of 2020. The great thing about FanSaves is these are some of the national brands we are currently helping, but we can also help the smallest mom and pop shops. We are in direct conversations with major league sports teams, colleges and universities across North America, and chambers of commerce and tourism groups like the Ottawa Board of Trade and Napa Chamber. At FanSaves, we have the team that it takes to win. Chris and I have extensive experience in sales and marketing and direct industry experience in sponsorship. We have an amazing team of employees, including the team at Biteside, who is working on our development, led by Casey Lee, and they are right out of Ottawa. We have amazing advisors who are propelling us forward, like Bruce Firestone, founder of the Ottawa Senators, and Holly Burnaby, former VP of Corporate Sales for the Golden State Warriors. We are raising a $500,000 seed round because the timing is right. The market is growing with organizations and businesses looking to go digital, and we have a proven product market fit. We have traction across North America, and we have grown this much simply through bootstrapping. So now is the time to scale as we move from organic growth to paid marketing and sales, so we can grow to 500 organizations, 5,000 deals, and 50,000 users by 2022. At FanSaves, we have the drive, the team, and the product to be the first $100 million female-led company from Ottawa, because everyone is a fan of something, and we hope that you will be a fan of us. Thank you to everyone who put SheBoot on. It has been a pleasure.
Thanks, Shannon. That was great. Hard not to be a fan with that presentation. All right, so now I would like to bring up the Vault founder and CEO, Audrey Bond.
Trying to share. There we go. Hey, everybody. My name is Audrey Bond, and I'm the founder and CEO of Vault. A few years ago, I had a problem. My mother and father, who are both disabled, started aging rapidly. There was this day. I realized they were no longer able to take care of themselves. They were missing doctor's appointments. They weren't taking their meds. Things were falling apart. All of a sudden, here I am, a single mom running a business, juggling their everything. I was overwhelmed. I hired caregivers to help bathe my parents, to help with their meds, to bring them food. I wanted updates from the caregivers. I wasn't getting any. It was like role reversal. They were now the children, and I needed to know from the people taking care of them that they were okay. How is their day? How are they feeling? I also wanted to share this information with my brother, but there was no solution. Dropbox wasn't going to work, nor was email. There was no secure solution, so I decided to build Vault, the only fully encrypted information management and communication platform for families, caregivers, and home care agencies. Caregivers have a problem, actually a few. We separate caregivers into two groups that often work together: unpaid family members and paid caregivers, hired to look after our loved ones. Those unpaid members, family members and caregivers today are stressed, disorganized, and overburdened with information. Home care agencies are in the business of caring for our loved ones and not in the business of keeping data safe. And home care providers also generally do not communicate with families at a frequency that provides accountability and peace of mind. With the trend of seniors aging in place, home care is one of the fastest growing industries. The economic value of unpaid caregiving exceeds $450 billion, and the home care industry is valued at over $108 billion. Vault's patent-pending technology enables encrypted communication between home care agencies, caregivers, and families, empowering users with real-time access to care information, wellness updates, medical, and legal documents. You can store and share important files like power of attorney forms, and with integrated scanning, all those paper requisitions, reports, and receipts can be easily uploaded into Vault. I can task my brother or a caregiver to take my dad to the cardiologist, and they can leave notes about what the doctor said. You can access caregiver schedules, you can share wellness updates, you can set permission levels so I can allow custom access to another caregiver so they can contribute to the circle of care. More than 65 million people, 29% of North America, provide care for a chronically ill or aging family member and spend on average 20 hours per week providing care. That translates into roughly $27 billion of lost income. And that's where home care agencies come in to help with the workload. Vault is sold through home care agencies, providing our platform to their customers, enabling encrypted communication, facilitating client intake, and saving agencies time and money. The families also win big time because they have instant access to schedules and vital care information on their loved one, providing much needed peace of mind. We have signed an agreement with Assurance Home Care where they will pilot Vault with their families and staff. We are also in discussions with 4 other home care agencies. We are currently in negotiations with one of the top 10 pharmaceutical companies in the world to integrate a care passport into Vault. The Vault Care Passport will be the only secure solution for family to caregiver information management and communication, with the ability to instantly share critical medical information and care directives to hospitals and urgent care. This will not only facilitate better care, but possibly save lives. What sets us apart, what makes us awesome, is that we are end-to-end encrypted. We enable patient and family-centric collaborative care. Our user interface is slick and super easy to use. If you can use Facebook, you can use Vault. And secure, innovative technology, such as our upcoming Care Passport and Home Care Agency Intake Wizard, will bring value no others offer. I've been an entrepreneur for over 25 years, and I'm surrounded by some very talented people. Vicki Iverson is CTO. She has built over 250 mobile apps and over the last 10 years. And Derek Lawless is our Director of Strategy. Andrew Bales is our CFO, and Julie Elvidge is our Strategic Advisor. Vault is available to both family caregivers and home care agencies. Our B2C revenue model is fairly simple as a SaaS platform. Per Vault price is $11.99 a month or $119 a year. Our home care agency B2B2C model is co-branded license plus per user fees. By October 2021, we expect to have over 30,000 users and hit $1.8 million in annual recurring revenue. Last year, we raised $540,000 through our friends and family round. We launched our beta this summer and plan to have Android as well as the Care Passport features deployed by January with ERP integration by March 2021. We are currently raising $1 million for our pre-seed round. This is the new normal. Caregivers and families want secure and easy access to vital information and to receive health and care updates on their vulnerable loved ones, all while staying physically distanced. I invite you to invest in Vaults and play a key role in the transformation of caregiving and the home care market. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Audrey. That was great. And now we are up for our fourth pitch, and I'm going to bring forward our CEO and founder of Meta, Ellie Ardakani. Over to you.
Thank you, Sonia. Hello, everyone. My name is Ellie Ardakani. I'm a geoscientist and co-founder and CEO of Meta, a tech company that is transforming the way we learn complex scientific concepts and workflows. I come from a multi-trillion-dollar industry called energy. In energy and mining, an average size of a project is about $30 million. So you can see how uneducated decisions by staff can cost millions of dollars for corporations. The only corporation solution to avoid these costly mistakes is through training. But only in 2019, $2.8 billion were spent globally on training geoscientists and engineers across these two industries. The worst part is, this is a repetitive cost, and that's due to the forgetting curve. The study shows that we forget more than 78% of what we learn only 8 days after we learn them. We believe we have a solution that combats the forgetting curve and slashes the cost of repetitive training and costly mistakes for our industry and beyond. Introducing you to Metakinetic, meaning beyond interactive. Metakinetic revolutionizes the way we learn complex scientific concepts and workflows through simulation-based training. In other words, learning with Metakinetic does not suffer from the forgetting curve. We do that through simplification, visualization, and interaction. Let me walk you through a very simple example. This is a non-mathematical representation of a sine wave. This is a mathematical representation of a sine wave. Through our proprietary scientific codes, we turn them into interactive simulations that allows user to learn by doing. Today, Metakinetic hosts more than 60 scientific simulations under engineering and geosciences disciplines and is used across the globe by professionals and university faculty members. Metakinetic is a SaaS enterprise solution, which is accessible anywhere at any time. We had multiple early trials and pilots with multiple number of companies in our primary target market, We're already a verified vendor with multiple number of these companies, which we generated more than $250,000 revenue from them. And we verified our solution before releasing the second version of our product. Pandemic brought us a new vertical, which is academia. We now host more than 250 students on our platform and 8 universities across the globe, which we will monetize in Q1 2021. We believe we have academic, industry, and business expertise to accelerate the growth of our company and commercialization of our product. Between me and my co-founder, we have 6 university degrees and more than 15 years of experience commercializing scientific algorithms within our industry. We are backed with the fund, support, and expertise of an early stage investor and energy tech entrepreneur, 12 scientific advisors on our board, 3 technology champions, and a dedicated team, in addition to multiple entities that are backing us up. With $2.8 billion total available market annually across the globe and 100 million SOM only in US and Canada to capture, our close future plan is focused on marketing, sales, and customer success. With more than $1 million in non-dilutive funds, pre-seed fund, and revenue, we are on the path of growth. If you are interested in investment, in working with us in partnership, please get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ellie. Great work. We are now going to bring forward the Zendelity CEO and founder, Rebecca Warmington.
There you go. Can everybody hear me okay?
We can.
Perfect. So my name is Rebecca Warmington. I'm the COO and co-founder of Zendelity, along with Dave McCready, the CEO. Combined, we've got over 50 years experience developing enterprise software and successfully bringing it to market. It wasn't long ago, one of our cruise ship customers came to us looking for a better way in which to address fire safety. And it was then that our pivot into physical operating compliance began. Our mission at Zendelity is to help properties around the globe save lives, money, and time. We do this by ensuring all frontline workers complete all the day-to-day responsibilities that are needed to keep us safe while on site. Our solution is called Command Center. It's a SaaS-based solution that combines the power of smartphones and RFID in order to automate all the day-to-day work plans that are required to operate a property today. And there is a tremendous amount of them. When you think of everything that needs to be done with health and safety, compliance with your insurance policy, industry regulations, franchise agreement, or an organization's own brand standards. In essence, if you need staff to put their hands on something to ensure it gets done to protect your investment, we're the tools to make sure it happens. The issue is today with the current methodologies that are in place. Currently, we're relying on checklists, logbooks, manuals, paper stored in filing cabinet to manage these important responsibilities. The challenge is that as management, they've really got no visibility at any given time as to what's actually going on the floor in real time. The information or the data they have access to is unreliable. Really, they've got no idea if anybody was in the right place at the right time to actually get the job done. There's simply no accountability. When you look at property management in 2020, it's very, very complex. When you think of the safety threats, and as the pandemic has demonstrated, no one is immune from it. Operating regulations continue to grow more and more complex with tighter enforcement and much larger penalties. Operating costs continue to go up. For example, commercial property insurance is going up 20% this year. And then of course there's brand standards. Reputation is so important, and social media has determined that nothing is secret. And its customers like Carleton University agree. Carleton University has 2,200 fire extinguishers throughout their 47 buildings. They're inspected monthly, and that information is tracked on the ticketing system. The issue is, as Chad, the fire protection coordinator, identifies, they really has no visibility as to where they are at any given time in completing those inspections, what's working, what's not. He simply doesn't have the data he needs. Using Command Center, he'll have access to the accurate real-time data he needs to be confident that everything's going to perform as required if needed to keep our faculty and our students safe. The return on investment for our customers is twofold. First, there's risk and cost avoidance, and we'll use a simple example of slip and fall accident. The average cost is about $60,000. So for just a fraction of that cost, we can give management the peace of mind to know that they've done everything possible to minimize the chance of that risk happening in the first place. On the flip side, it's all about operating efficiency. And if we use the example of COVID, the average mid-sized property will require about 1,800 net new sanitization tasks a day to be completed. At 3 minutes per task, that translates to almost $500,000 in incremental labor costs. While we can't make those costs go away, we can ensure that we're performing them as efficiently and as effectively as possible. While we believe that all public properties could benefit from our solution, we're really focused in on those that have a high level of duty of care and are closely monitored. We believe it's those that prioritize their own personal brand and consider themselves technology leaders versus laggards that will invest. That gives us a total serviceable available market of 633,000 properties in North America alone. At $10,000 per customer, that translates to $6.3 billion in ARR. Our competition, so of course there's the core paper-based systems, unreliable, that we have today. While there is software out there that could potentially be a fit, it's like putting a square peg in a round hole. It's really not designed for this specific use case or these specific types of users. Command Center is the only solution on the market that prioritizes physical operating compliance and targets the needs of our frontline workers. Our goal is to achieve $100 million in ARR by mid-year 6. Our product will be beta ready in 8 weeks, and we have a growing pipeline of customers that are ready, willing, and able to engage. Our goal is to raise $800,000 in funding, which would give us 36 months of runway and enable us to achieve our goal of 15.6 million in ARR. So why invest in Zendelity today? Because COVID has put the spotlight on physical operating compliance and our frontline workers. This is a significant opportunity with a tremendous amount of regional and vertical upside. We are market ready, the product's ready, we're ready to go. And we bring to you a team, we've been there, we've done that, and we're ready to do it again. And with that, I'd like to invite you to invest with us and help save lives, money, and time, one task at a time. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Great job. We're now going to bring forward the CEO and founder of HireFast, Alina Jahani.
Hi, thank you. I'm just getting my screen shared here, so just bear with me for a quick moment. Perfect. Can you all see my screen?
We're good.
Great. So good afternoon, investors, fellow entrepreneurs, and the greater community. My name is Alina Jahani, and I'm the co-founder of HireFast. We are building the world's fastest search platform that connects recruiters to software developers. To explain exactly what I mean by that, let's jump into how we started HireFast. 2 years ago, my co-founder and I needed to hire a software developer. After months of trying to hire using resumes and still finding no qualified talent, we realized that resumes were not a good indicator of competency. We then decided to try a different tactic, and we started looking at people's code on GitHub to find candidates. We found a suitable one, and we were able to hire him within just a few weeks. Our platform saved us from hiring a professional recruiter and paying a $20,000 recruitment fee. This led us to realize that there was a potential in creating a product that could help recruiters find great coders. That's when my co-founder and I decided to share our talent of evaluating online code projects. Recruiters could leverage an ever-growing database of 50 million software developers without ever learning to code themselves. In a nutshell, we replaced the tedious task of looking at resumes with a summary of real-life experience. Our solution allows a recruiter to take their job description and input it as search criteria into our search engine. We leverage the public code available on GitHub, which is an international platform used by developers to share their code. Our algorithm compares code written by candidates to real-life production code. This allows recruiters to skip reading millions of lines of code like this that you see in the right, and instead view a comprehensive breakdown of the candidate's skill set. HireFast currently has 2 customer personas, internal recruiters and external. External recruiters have been our strongest personas thus far, as we act as a differentiator in their business model. While for internal recruiters, our solution means that their software developers can spend more time on coding and less time evaluating technical talent. Since launching 4 months ago, we've gained several customers from around the world from both personas. While maintaining our 4 paid beta customers, we've onboarded multiple customers onto our paid plan and have 3 more in our pilot program. We have done several unpaid social media outreaches, and we're proud to say that we've acquired a list of 300 customers, and we're onboarding them in the weeks to come. We've priced ourselves competitively at an annual subscription rate of $1,200 per year, providing a TAM of $1.8 billion, given that there are 1.5 million recruiters worldwide. These numbers do take into account the pandemic, as hiring did slow down for software developers, but hiring for remote developers has seen a drastic increase. This positions HireFast in a great spot to expand our operations to more cities internationally and piggyback on the work from home trend. The recruitment industry does have a lot of players, but none of them quite offer a service like HireFast. There are 2 main types of competitors. The first is job boards like Indeed, Monster, ZipRecruiter, and the second is headhunters like VanHack. HireFast is a superior platform to job boards because we actually look at technical skill rather than proclaimed skill. In the case of headhunters, we work discreetly with recruiters so that they can effectively nurture their candidates. Our SaaS model is much more scalable than your typical headhunter, as they usually employ thousands of recruiters to source candidates. Our core team is composed of myself and my co-founder, Kareem. Together, we make the best team, as Kareem handles product development and I look after business strategy. Kareem comes with over 15 years of experience in the tech industry, and I've co-founded many startups previous to this one. We also have a great advisory board who offers more than 100 years of experience in product development and business development. Right now, we're looking for angel investment to help us explore our internal recruiter customer segment and double our sales month over month. With an angel investment of over $100,000, we can hire another developer to expand our product and introduce some tools to help us with sales and the marketing process. To summarize, we want to make a splash in the recruitment industry. Millions of recruiters are stuck using resume-based hiring that causes them to unknowingly increase the time it takes to hire a software developer. Together, we can change that. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Alina. And I'm now very happy to introduce Ashley Boludam of BagSort. Ashley is the COO and co-founder of BagSort. Ashley, are you ready to share your screen?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Looks good.
Yes, just a second.
This presentation mode, yep. Perfect.
Okay, just a second. Okay, is everything good?
It looks good, go ahead.
Okay. So space has never been at such a premium. Residential space is getting smaller while the price by square foot has risen dramatically. At the same time, we own more belongings than ever before. My name is Ashley, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of BagSort, and we are building the world's largest storage network. The condo boom, downsizing, divorce, death, a growing number of baby boomers, and changing tastes have all contributed to a doubling in self-storage across Canada over the last decade, and a virtual explosion across the United States, as more folks find themselves space challenged but unable to part with even the tarnished trophies of their lives. However, with storage facility occupancy rates at about 93%, the storage market is considered to be undersupplied across the country. In fact, demand for self-storage is estimated to be at least 4 square feet per person in Canada, and that's compared to a current supply of only 2 square feet per person. This means that when a storage unit becomes available, a customer is going to snatch it up as soon as they possibly can. In the US alone, the self-storage market is worth over $40 billion. Therefore, the demand not met represents another $40 billion opportunity. We have created a platform where users can instantly book to safely store their belongings at local shops nearest to them. Think of it as the Airbnb of storage. We initially rolled out Bag Sort as a short-term storage service for travelers. Travelers stuck with their bags while waiting to get into their vacation rental are able to book on our platform to temporarily leave their belongings at the nearest local shop. And until COVID-19, we were seeing tremendous success and already stored over 1,000 bags. So the short-term storage model clearly worked. However, we saw that many users would use our storage service in a very unique way, especially during the pandemic. Instead of using the service to store luggage for a couple of hours as intended, some users would pay a premium to store other items for weeks or longer. That's when we realized that our solution to storage could solve a bigger problem, the growing demand for long-term storage. In order to accomplish this, we're altering our model to allow not only local businesses, but individuals as well, like you and me, to offer storage space on BagSort. This means you can advertise the platform on the platform in an empty room, garage, or even just a closet as spare space that someone could rent for storage. So what have we achieved so far? Well, over the past year, we rolled out our short-term storage model within 7 major cities. And in less than 6 months, we were able to build a storage network of over 100 storage locations across North America. Our current network includes hotels and various local shops with space available for either short-term or longer-term storage. However, now that we're opening our network to individuals as well, our network will increase to thousands of storage locations. So why do people love using BagSort? Well, firstly, we offer, secure, vetted local spaces at affordable prices. Meanwhile, we empower our hosts with an easy way to earn additional income monetizing unused space. We make the process safe and secure by running ID checks and by providing insurance on every booking. And that's why customers love us. BagSort aims to make storage space easy, lower cost, and convenient for everyone, everywhere. The business model is simple. Hosts set their own monthly or weekly price depending on the square feet and the accessibility of the storage space. And BagSort takes 5% of the rental price as a fee paid by hosts, as well as imposing a 20% service fee on guests. What makes the self-storage business model rather unique is the fact that the industry remains highly fragmented. We believe that we are better positioned to serve this market as our competitors cannot meet the current demand. Our key differentiator is really in our value proposition, which is convenience and flexibility. Our competitors can't scale quickly and can be available in every village, town, and city across the country like we can. We are more affordable, with customers saving around 50% of the traditional storage bill. With the capability of creating an endless supply of storage, BagSort's peer-to-peer storage model is set to disrupt the conventional storage industry, just like Airbnb did. My business partner, Jean-Luc, and I are born entrepreneurs. In the past, we both successfully ran 6 figures in sales businesses while pursuing full-time study. Jean-Luc's background is primarily in finance and business, while mine is in operations and sales. BagSort CTO Frédéric brings over 10 years of software expertise development to the team. Along the way, we have also surrounded ourselves with mentors who believe in our solution. I'm here today as we're seeking an investment of $300,000 as convertible debt to fuel growth, make key hires, and scale our tech.
Okay, thank you.
The Airbnb storage. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ashley. Sorry to cut off at the last bit there, but thank you very much for taking us through that. Great job. Yes. Moving on, it's now the next 10 minutes is all about Julia's. So I'm going to start with Julia Salina, who is the CEO and founder of Treehouse Medical. I'll let you get ready there, Julia. And
all right, can everyone hear me?
I can hear you, Julia. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you to Treehouse Medical. We are building Canada's leading care management platform for the maternal health community. My name is Julia Slanina, and I am the founder and CEO. Maternal health providers like midwives play a pivotal period between pregnancy and age 5, where crucial foundations for life are built. Maternal providers come into a woman's life, typically at conception, and stay until age 5. We know that for every live birth in Canada and abroad, women use on average 3 to 5 providers. In Canada, that serves approximately 350,000 live births annually. This target market is currently underserved and lacks resources to quickly adapt to the pandemic environment. Providers are not only backlogged with providing care, but lack a proper digital toolkit to assist care delivery. The global maternity care market is slated to exceed $9 billion by 2023. Couple that with the EMR market, the potential for high growth and meeting the demand for care management tools to mitigate adverse patient outcomes are necessary. The market problem that we focus predominantly on has two main pain points. Number one, for providers, and number two, for those expectant individuals or parents. Providers lack a secure toolkit that would permit for routine monitoring in order to mitigate adverse outcomes. This area of medicine and healthcare requires regular personalized check-ins. However, at present, this is fragmented among providers, geography, and vulnerable populations, and has been exacerbated during the pandemic. Canada ranks 30th out of 36 OECD member countries in the world when it comes to infant mortality. COVID-19 has been an accelerant to the Treehouse Medical solution, and the timing and sense of urgency is crucial. Our solution brings together practice management software, traditional EMR systems, and creates a hybrid that is tailored to an underserved area of our healthcare system. Providers get equipped with a dashboard to handle their clinic operations, manage staff, and their patients receive an app where they can communicate and stay connected to their care team. Our entry point into the market is through a phased approach. We target predominantly midwives, lactation consultants, and doulas first, moving towards a full circle of care from conception to age 5. We target English-speaking countries with public health systems as we move into global markets. Our competitors serve US, Canadian, and global markets, proving the need exists and continually evolves. However, we believe our solution delivers a clear advantage and one that can be maintained long-term in this space. We win with 6 key competitive advantages that are different from our competitors. Our digital toolkit provides providers the ability to see more patients, mitigate security risks, decrease administrative costs, but most importantly, we connect the supply and the demand in a personalized care delivery model. Our complete team contains 6 individuals with a growing advisory board that is skilled and connected in the digital and maternal world. Treehouse Medical stemmed from me having to halt my MD studies in order to care for my mother and become a stay-at-home parent. That's where I saw a real need for the maternal health community. I decided to focus my medical knowledge on developing technology in order to improve patient outcomes. Since our pivot in May of 2020, we have grown our community to over 800 followers and launched a testing product with 5 clinics in Ontario and Alberta. Our testing clinics demonstrate the need, the interest, and commitment to championing our initial version. Our next milestone is to fully commercialize and scale rapidly. We are raising a $250,000 pre-seed round in order to secure our R&D and deliver our product. This market has a low barrier to entry in terms of regulatory perspective, and we see a high growth opportunity. Our SaaS-based B2B software is priced at $250 a month. By the end of Q4, we see 10 providers using our platform with a high growth potential over the next 12 to 18 months. Our early adopters are predominantly midwives who will endorse our solution and the reachable community who do not have a solution today. Increased routine monitoring leads to a decrease in adverse outcomes, which have paralyzed the maternal health community for decades and has unfortunately begun to resurface due to COVID-19. Women-led businesses have also severely been affected by COVID, and now is the time to support a female-led health tech company committed to leading the future of maternal health. Join us as we become industry leaders in this critical space. Thank you very much.
Well done, well done. Thank you, Julia.
My pleasure.
Well, moving on, we now have Julie McDonnell from Heirloom. Julie is the CEO and co-founder of Heirloom. Are you ready, Julie? You look.
I am. Yep. Sorry, we're ready.
Yeah. Okay. I can hear you.
Julie Sorry. Yep.
Just confirming I can hear you.
Okay, great. I'm Julie McDonnell. I'm a senior level trademark lawyer turned tech founder. My company is called Heirloom, and we've innovated the trademark registration process. Trademark registration is the only way to own a brand. You can't even legally own a website domain without trademarking it. But the process is complicated, and you really do need an expert to get it right. This friction of having to work slowly with expensive lawyers leaves hundreds of thousands of small and medium-sized businesses with only two options: file using a cheap, inexpert online service or wing it on your own. Both set you up to fail, and failing to properly protect company trademarks can all too often mean failure for the business. This can sometimes happen overnight. Heirloom solves this multi-billion-dollar problem. Our tech-enabled platform empowers these business owners to search and file their own trademarks. They can do it quickly, they do it affordably. Most important to us, though, is that they do it to an actual professional lawyer standard. Since launching in Canada, we've had 170% month-over-month growth, reaching over $70,000 in monthly revenue. In the 8 months since we launched our MVP, we've partnered with RBC Ventures to offer trademarking alongside their business registration and incorporation platform called Owner. We're in discussion with the Canadian Intellectual Property Office, the actual government office, because our tools would clean up the trademark applications being submitted to the Trademarks Office. We've got ClearBank fueling our marketing. We're also backed by the BDC. We've been accepted into multiple top-tier accelerators: Google for Startups, the Canadian Technology Accelerator in Silicon Valley, the Accelerator Center, and of course, SheBooth through Invest Ottawa. While we've achieved fantastic traction very quickly in Canada, the US market is a 10 times bigger market. There's very little competition for us on the Canadian side, but we are raising capital now to support our launch into this much, much bigger US market. We're up against a fairly formidable competitor in the US called LegalZoom, but they're fully manual in their process and don't access innovation or technology in the way that we do. Beyond our US launch, there are so many ways to grow this opportunity. We see huge potential through strategic partnerships. Heirloom would be a valuable add-on for domain registration or e-commerce partners such as GoDaddy, Amazon, or Shopify. We've also built our technology to be compliant with World Intellectual Property Office standards, which gives us 193 potential international markets. Large enterprise clients would see value in our technology. Putting trademark search and application tools into the hands of their existing in-house legal and marketing teams would eliminate an extraordinary expense for them in terms of external lawyers. We have impressive traction. We have a big opportunity in so many ways to grow it. But the very best thing about us is that we have an incredible team. We have very deep domain knowledge and substantial technology expertise. And I always say that we're a unicorn, not necessarily because of our revenue, although we hope to be, but because we are one of the extremely rare startups with a female CTO, Sarah Ruet. We truly are women in tech. Sarah is a longtime friend, and her work is supported by highly esteemed Stanford machine learning experts. Diversity and inclusion are core to our company culture and really core to us as women founders, especially Canadian women founders. We really are so honored to be participating in the SheBooth program. Its focus on empowering women founders to secure funding is so incredibly needed. And we're proud to be moving the dial alongside the SheBooth and Invest Ottawa team. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie. We have one final pitch, and then you'll be able to get organized and figure out your crowd favorite. Cassie, you look like you're getting ready already. That's fantastic. I'm pleased to introduce Cassie Myers, who is the CEO and founder of Lunaria Solutions. Cassie, can you speak and so I can hear?
Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you. So please go ahead when you're ready.
Perfect. Okay. Hello, my name is Cassie. I'm the founder and CEO of Lunaria. And at Lunaria, we create diversity, equity, and inclusion solutions that put people first and drive real returns. Oops. Companies are racing to prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion. 90% of businesses make the investment for its innovative opportunities. But not just that. All companies with over 100 employees in the United States are required to report on their diversity data. And 10 states and counting have DEI training requirements for teams as small as 2. But DEI is complicated. There's a cost to hire experts beyond HR, which can be over $30,000 a year. The mismanagement of employee needs that can result in complaints and wasted capital. Then there's a difficulty to measure progress for improvement, hiring, and growing reporting requirements. At Lunaria, we make DEI easy. We eliminate the need for an expert by providing online leadership advice through our platform. Our DEI education units are matched to employees' unique needs to ensure success. And companies use our surveys to track and report on DEI progress for growing government requirements and internal reporting. If I'm an HR director, I log on to Lunaria and I get access to a DEI assessment. Through a series of surveys, I receive a comprehensive report on my unique DEI position. Every month, my employees are matched with education units based on their responses in the audit. The units are 5 to 10 pieces of content created for long-standing behavior change. Through 1 to 5 minute pulse surveys, I identify any new DEI problems and track employee performance. These results also power my education unit matches to ensure the education received matches my needs. Our pricing starts at $3 per month per employee and grows to $4. We know that through our research, DEI is a priority for 90% of businesses, but we're targeting companies outlined on the slides that need DEI for compliance and their success today. Now we're competing in the DEI technology market. Given our market, a 1% penetration rate, an average MRR of $400 to $800, we estimate our target market at $1.5 billion. Now the DEI tech market is new. 60% of participants are under 9 years old. We compete against 2 customers: DEI technology startups just emerging and focusing on one piece of DEI, and consulting firms trying to develop an add-on solution. To differentiate from our competitors, we focus on compliance. We help our clients complete the reporting and training tasks that they are required to. We provide custom leadership education to build HR capacity alongside employees and eliminate the need for an additional hire. We take a predictive approach to DEI. Using our surveys, we reveal companies' most painful needs and match them with the education units to solve it. We built rules into our analytics that disable employers from accidentally singling out an employee's response and opening themselves up to risk. And we have the perfect team to grow our product's impact. I graduated from the University of Waterloo, where I did my thesis on learning gender. Manassa, our developer, joined the team 2 years ago at the idea stage. Camille, our marketing manager, graduated from Laurier and sits on the board for one of Waterloo Region's oldest LGBTQ2 nonprofits. And Laura, our account lead, has her master's from UW, where she researched sexual assault. And we're supported by experts spanning development, investment, and HR, and we've been working hard to grow Lunaria. We spent a year testing our analysis methods through over 3,000 responses to our DEI surveys. Of the 6 organizations we tested with, 5 stayed on as customers. We released version 1 this year and at $3,200 USD MRR. To continue our growth, we are raising $250,000 in pre-seed funding. Now there's a huge market window, and to capture it, we will spend 40% on R&D to hire another developer and release version 2 of our product. 56% of spending would be on customer management, marketing, and sales to help us hire another person and work on both inbound and outbound sales efforts. With this funding, we would have 24 months of runway, and based on our current sales growth, get to 60,000 MRR by 2022 for another raise. And version 2 would be completed that can support those teams of over 1,000. For the investors watching, if you want to back a company with technology in the hands of customers, month-over-month sales growth, and an educated team growing in a compliance-driven market, email me to learn more about our technology success and plan. If you know a company that can benefit from our technology, send me an email and we're happy to share how we make and measure change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cassie. That was a fabulous pitch again. And now, thank you for sticking with us. We are now moving into the awards. Sonia,
we are. So we are going to set everybody up to choose their crowd favorite. So get ready. We want to hear from you. And we are going to start off with our $50,000 investment. The second prize winner is going to be announced by Julia Elvich.
Fantastic. I hope everybody is making their picks right now for the crowd favorite. Oh, there it is. Okay, popping up right now.
Excellent.
Excellent. In the meantime, I am really happy to announce the second prize winner. That prize of $50K in funding comes from FedDev. And I'd like to bring the winner up to chat quickly. And the winner is Audrey Bond from Vault. Audrey, could you come on and say hello for a second?
Hi there. Oh, I'm thrilled. Thank you so much. This is wonderful. I've enjoyed the program from start to finish. And yes, it did mess up my schedule, but it was worth it. Thank you. I'm thrilled.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Audrey. And we'll move on. And drum roll, please. Jennifer, handing off to you.
Thanks, Julia. And it's with great excitement that I want to announce the winner of our first prize. And I want to say that this was not an easy decision. The 10 investors spent hours and hours and hours reviewing data rooms, watching pitches, discussing, agonizing. But I am so excited to announce the winner of the first cohort of SheBoot with the 150K in funding, 100 dilutive and 50K non-dilutive. And I would like to bring up Julie McDonald from Heirloom. Congratulations.
Well, that was really unexpected, but obviously we're thrilled, and I'll speak for Sarah here that this infusion of money, I always say women founders really, really, really need money, and it's going to make a huge difference for us. We really appreciate it, and I'd also like to just say a few words about these incredible other founders in this cohort. They're all amazing. They're all worthy of investment. I hope that they get it. I hope they get it through this program. And I hope that the audience was really kind of, listening and seeing the value in them. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie.
Amazing. Thank you. I am waiting. We are tallying the votes. Oh my goodness, and we have a tie. So I'm gonna wait for that drum roll to come on in. Big thank you to all of the investors, to the founders, the leaders, the mentors, the Ghost Board directors. This program was truly built on the community with the leadership of Jennifer, Julia, and very, very grateful to the 10 women angels who put that anchor investment down. Very grateful to FedDev Ontario. That investment is coming through our Scale Up platform, which we received funding for a couple of years back. An incredible program dedicated to helping scale founders as quickly and as sustainably as possible. And I am now very excited. Okay, I have the names. The tie is between FanSaves and Lunaria. Yay! You will both be going to pitch the Capital Angel Network. That is amazing. And we're going to bring each of you on. We want you to both come on and say a few words. We are so excited. Maybe we'll start with Shannon.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you. First of all, to everyone who put SheBoot on, this has been amazing and really got us even more investor ready. And to the other ladies, you've all been great to get to know. Congrats to Julie and Audrey and Cassie as well. So thank you to everyone who voted. We love that you're fans of us.
That's great.
Wonderful. And Cassie.
Yeah, I wanted to make a FanSaves joke, but you got it, Shannon. But yeah, I want to thank the SheBoot team so much and all the other founders. It's been great to learn and have just a great community, and excited to continue the growth and connection with SheBoot and Invest Ottawa.
Amazing. Thank you so, so much. Every single founder did an outstanding job. Congratulations. It was a privilege and an honor to work with all of you. We are going to do this again next year. SheBoot is continuing, and I am so excited. We are going to get ready for our next cohort. It's been the experience and the journey of a lifetime, and the goal, as Jennifer said earlier, is to see all 10 of these founders get the investment that they deserve to catalyze the growth and success of their company.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say that Heirloom is the 100th investment of Capital Angel Network. So that's a super exciting milestone here in Ottawa. And I'm sure that we've got 101 through 110 all lined up.
I'd like to see that.
And more investors to come right behind it. Absolutely. And of course, that is our goal, is to help as many women-founded companies, as many entrepreneurs as possible, get the funding that they need to grow. AccelerateOTT is all about supporting entrepreneurs. It is our flagship conference, doing it very differently this year to keep everyone safe. This virtual environment is something that we are working hard at to ensure that it's as impactful as possible. We do want to hear from you. Reach out to any member of our team if you'd like to share thoughts on today. I want to just give a final shout out to our sponsors, because they are so critical to our entrepreneurship ecosystem. Government of Canada Trade Commissioner Service, Canadian Technology Accelerator Program, Simple Story, those are our scale sponsors. Grow sponsors, Logan Katz, National Bank, Telfer School of Management at U Ottawa, our build sponsor Shopify, and our launch sponsors MDK Law, MNP, Women Entrepreneurship Hub, and Carleton University, my alma mater. We are very, very grateful for your support. Thank you all for joining us. Congratulations again to our founders, and thank you to my friends Julie and Jennifer for your leadership. It is amazing to work with you and an honor.
Well, we have to thank the technology gods. We didn't have any glitches. This worked.
We didn't have a single glitch, because we have the best event producer in the world named Jessica Ward, and she ensures everything flows seamlessly. I tell her every day, put my life in your hands. She's done multiple events this year in this environment. Jessica, we're very, very grateful. And to the entire team.
I'm grateful to all the founders that agreed to do this live today.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah.
To everyone who made today a success, including all of the participants tuning in, thank you for being with us. Have a great day, everyone. Stay safe and healthy.
Yeah, take care. Well done, all of you. Bye.